warm welcome. You have joined us live on YouTube from the Thunderdome in the great city of Chicago, Illinois. Today, the Chicago Wildcats, who sit at 500, are looking to climb their way up the standings and into a wild card spot. But they will face a tough test today from the St. Louis Gladiators, who are looking to play spoiler to one of their main rivals. We've got a gateway to the West battle here in Chicago. I am your play-by-play commentator, Michael Truilo, joined by Levant, Mercer. Levant, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I think this is going to be a much better game for both of these teams than what we've seen last week, so here's hoping for a good one.
The captains are out at midfield. And the toss is in the air. And it looks like Chicago is going to get the ball first to start the game with their great quarterback, E.T. King. And the kicker for St. Louis, Matthew Martin, has the ball on the tee. And the ball is in the air, and it's game on here from the Thunderdome. Ball returned up to the 29-yard line of Chicago by Corey Carter, and that is where the offense for the Wildcats will start. And here they are. The quarterback is E.T. King. The running back is Jared Willis. The wide receivers are Buchanan Simons, Corey Carter, and J.C. Torres. The tight end is Shan Varner as we play Chicago in their all-orange uniforms with silver helmets. Going left to right across your radio dial. E.T. King under center. He'll drop it off on first down to Willis. And he will lose 2 yards. Levant, as we look at these two teams today, Chicago and St. Louis, in the grand scheme of things, this game really does matter, doesn't it?
Yes, particularly for Chicago, who's trying to get a playoff spot here. Still alive at 4-4.
And a long throw down the field is picked off. Second play from scrimmage, and St. Louis has the football. Colin Douglas with the pick already.
This is something that Chicago struggled with last week, and once again throwing into which pretty much have jumped the route, an underthrown ball there, and an easy pick, an interception for Douglas.
We apologize for our little audio mishap at the beginning of the game. We should be better now. Let us know in the chat, please, if we're doing all right. And Dylan Seal trots the St. Louis offense out on the field, and Denzel Diaz won't gain anything on first down. Here is the St. Louis offense. The quarterback is Dylan Seal, running back Denzel Diaz, wideout Nick Finch, tight end Cody Scott. They put a lot of value into a few players on offense, and so far this season it hasn't worked out the best for them, as this is a flare out to Diaz for 3 yards to the far side. Here's the Chicago defense. The safeties are Maurice Spurgeon and A.J. Barnes. The corners are Jesse Vick and Blake Hamrick. The linebacker is Dylan Rowland, and the defensive end, Clint Hendershot.
Primarily, I feel like St. Louis is going to have to get their offense going. Previous game, they only scored 13 points.
From just inside Chicago territory at the 47-yard line, 3rd down and 7. High snap, corralled by Seal. He's under pressure, and down he goes. Back across the 50 to the St. Louis 47-yard line. And that will stall this drive right there as Chris Sinreski grabs the sack.
One of the major keys in Chicago's 6-3 win was their defense, and especially their defensive line. Getting to the seal there, and often in this game, is going to be a key for them.
Out punting is Graham Northrup for St. Louis. It looked to pin Chicago deep. Taken and down right at the 18-yard line by Jesse Vick, who's returning punts today. And we've seen 5 offensive plays. We already have a turnover and a 3-and-out. Does that, you think, kind of be a prediction to the future of how this game's going to go?
Well, considering how it was Chicago played last week, only scoring off 2 field goals, it's possible. St. Louis only scored 13 last week.
Here is King. He'll fire over the middle, wide open, right down the seam, and across midfield is Buchanan Simons. Major play across midfield to the St. Louis 42-yard line.
Well, in the previous 2 games, he hadn't recorded a reception, but now he's making his mark in this game with a very wonderful grab through the middle there.
That just shows you the arm of E.T. King had 196 yards last week in the 6-3 win. And here's a run from Willis off the left side. He's going to pound his way for a first down all the way up to the 30. Give him 12 yards on that one.
Call him the E-back, the emergency back. He came in after Calvin left the team. And what we see here, once again, just perfect blocks off to the outside on this power O. And just muscles through Afolabi there.
Now, if you were wondering where the green is on the St. Louis uniforms, I'll continue this thought after this play. As E.T. King sets, rolls, and fires down the middle into traffic and caught down inside the 10 to the 9-yard line. Fantastic grab there. J.C. Torres, his first grab of the game, is a big one.
Well, not only that, but look at where he put this ball. There was only one way to get it underneath the safety there, and it was, putting it low where only his receiver can grab it. There's only one chance at the ball there, and great play by E.T. King.
And I'll hold the uniform discussion until after this red zone play. King over the middle, and it will be short of the goal line by 2 yards as J.C. Torres makes another catch. As the Wildcats are in the SFL, presented by 8 p.m. Music, red zone for the first time in this evening's ballgame. Second down and goal here. Could we be seeing a Willis drive, punch through, put it on the board. Chicago strikes early, and they have the opening touchdown. Jared Willis grabs his first of the game, his 5th of the season, and 6 points for Chicago.
They already matched their total from last week with this run with Willis here. Just absolutely just out-muscled them at the line, and wonderful play there by Willis to evade the first tackle and get in for 6.
The kicker for Chicago is Jesus Garcia. He'll come on to attempt his first extra point of the game. And this drive, Levant, seems to be a statement of intent from Chicago. Because even on their first drive when they got intercepted, they were going for the jugular with long throws right away.
No, I'm quite sure they just didn't want to get into the situation that they had last week where it was just a defensive struggle. They understand the weaknesses of this St. Louis team, and against a team like them, you might as well just put the pressure on them early.
Well, 5 minutes in, they've already scored more points than they did in their win last week against Indianapolis. That game ended 6-3. And now Dylan Asil and the St. Louis offense is going to have to try to respond here on the road down early, as Juan Moore brings this up to the 28. I will continue my thought from earlier. The Gladiators today are wearing gold helmets with blue face masks, red jerseys, white pants with red, blue, and gold trim, and red socks. And the uniforms have been described to me as Gateway tribute uniforms. The gold and blue are Rams, and the red and white are Cardinals. Hand off Denzel Diaz, right side. He'll pick up 2 yards, and he's eventually run down by A.J. Barnes.
Well, whatever the case may be, I'm just hoping to see a new look for them on this drive.
So they'll line up going right to left. on their own 30-yard line, second down and 8. 6:23 to go and counting from the Thunderdome in Chicago. A Seal going to throw near sideline. That pass is complete. Picking up Nick Finch for 4 yards. And another one of those will net them a first.
Well, I would like to see them try to take something off Chicago's style of play early on and try to push some pressure on themselves.
Third down and 4. 3 wide outs, 2 right, single left. And Diaz alongside Finch in the backfield. Finch is going to run up to the line, try a jump pass to the far side, and it's knocked away by A.J. Barnes, and that was an awkward-looking play. It looked to be designed, but it didn't get them anywhere as Northrop comes back on the field.
I feel like he was just feeling the pressure there. Once again, Chicago's defensive line forced the Seal into that throw, and I feel like he should have just taken it and run it, but he just decided to force a pass. It was incomplete. Fourth down.
Second punt in as many drives for Graham Northrop. This one back at his own 20-yard line. He'll get it away cleanly. And caught just shy of the 30 and up to the 30 goes Jesse Vick, and that is where Chicago will start their next drive, looking to add to their lead. They've already got a 7-0 lead here. 5:52 to go first quarter. So Chicago will start 4 wide, 3 left, single right. E.T. King in the shotgun with Willis alongside him, and King floats it out near side. That pass is complete. Buchanan Simons, who made the big catch early in the drive to cross midfield on the previous drive, will pick up 5 here on first down.
Interested to see how they bring some of these receivers back into the game. For the past couple of games, they've only been able to complete to each of their receivers no more than 3 times.
And I mean, you can't really put last week's stats up on a pedestal or anything. I mean, especially offensively, as Willis takes this one for 2 yards right up the gut. He will be taken down by Ethan Kai up from the safety spot. Because last week for Chicago, E.T. King only had 196 yards, no touchdowns. He got picked 4 times, and so that's not a banner game, but they still got the win. King on a slant. He's got a first down up across the 45-yard line to Corey Carter. And they'll move the chains again, and they've looked to have changed their style here for the second drive.
I pretty much agree with this sort of style that they went with. They're going more West Coast look here. Wonderful pass. Once again, only where Corey Carter can pick it up. Low and inside.
And right in front of Colin Douglas, who is arguably the best player on this St. Louis defense. He's got 6 interceptions on the year, and actually make that 7 since he picked up one earlier in this quarter. King looking, throwing near side as a wobbly pass, and it was a bit behind Simons. He only got 5 yards out of it, and maybe he was lucky to stay in bounds at that.
Well, it doesn't always have to be pretty as long as it's completed.
Now right at midfield, right in the middle of the Wildcat logo. E.T. King under center in the I formation with the receiver each side. St. Louis has loaded the box, but it doesn't matter because there goes Willis. He's breaking away, and he's got to the 30. A 20-yard scamper on 2nd and 5. And Jared Willis, he's already got a touchdown, and he's looking for another one.
Just because the hat count wasn't favorable for the play does not mean that the play was designed to not beat this blitz here. As we see here, Willis once again goes out to the outside and just completely decimates the defense there. As we could see that St. Louis went with a middle inside blitz and determined to stop the inside run and was unable to do that.
A good heads-up play by Willis to bounce it outside. And they're going to give it to Willis again. This time he bounces it left, and he's going to get another nice hole, pick up 7 yards before he is finally brought down by Jamu Afolabi, the linebacker.
Once again, it's just the sign of the offensive line just breaking through every time and allowing Willis the time and space to find the hole and run.
Another handoff to Willis, and this time he's met the hole. He'll get a yard that time, as Carter Cannon and Bo Knowles combined to make the stop. Bo Knowles, a big feature of this St. Louis defense. And it's interesting to me, and I'll finish this thought after the play. 3rd down and 2. King looks to throw. He'll flare it out to Willis, and Willis will pick up the first down and get up to the 16-yard line, pick up a 5, and into the SFL presented by APM Music Red Zone again. Levant, if you just look at the talent that the defense for St. Louis has on the front line in Scott LaRue, Mandrake Perp, and Shane Masters, it's kind of insane how they're getting beat up front every play, and this time Jared Willis takes the pass out of the backfield and goes nowhere.
Well, just because the talent is there, usually if you're running just 3 defensive linemen, if the double teams are working and the offensive line can shift to negate the stunts and all these other moves that they're able to employ on the defensive line, doesn't matter who's out there, you're outnumbered.
2nd down and 10 from the 15. 7-step drop for King. Looking, tipped in the air and incomplete. Undercutting the route was Carter Cannon. He makes his 2nd influential play of this drive. And now it's 3rd and 10, and St. Louis looks to hold him to 3 points here.
Well, when you're in the red zone, they started to go with these zone plays, and I tend to agree with it. The more spaces that you can cover...
Jamu Afolabi knocks it away against his former team. The pass was intended for Corey Carter, but Jesus Garcia is going to have to come on and attempt a field goal.
Well, that time the defensive line actually came through with pressure there and forced E.T. King into a throw into triple coverage.
Looking to be a 32-yard attempt here for Garcia. Just 1:45 to go first quarter. This first quarter has flown by, it seems, as that one is right down Main Street from 32 yards, and Chicago takes a 10-0 lead with 1:41 to go first quarter. This is the SFL presented by APM Music YouTube. Stay with us. And we've casted St. Louis a couple of times this season, Levant, and every time it seems like they go down this rabbit hole of the offense is slow out of the gate and they go down by, 10, 15 points. And then when the offense shows up, they've dug themselves too big of a hole to climb out of.
That seems to be the case again today, but it's still early to say, and perhaps something could occur on this drive to change their fortunes.
That's not the best return, only out to the 25-yard line from Juan Moore. And if the Gladiators are going to find some success, it's going to be through Nick Finch. He has been their best receiver all season, but only has 2 touchdowns on the year. And maybe find some Cody Scott routes, as Scott, the tight end, is highlighted on your screen there. 1st and 10 for the red and gold-clad Gladiators from their own 25-yard line. A seal floats it over the middle, incomplete. He was looking for Cody Scott. That pass was broken up by Dylan Rowland.
I just feel like that time he predetermined which receiver he wanted to throw to. He didn't give any of his other receivers time to go through their route trees and didn't make even a single progression on that play, and it went incomplete. Lucky he didn't get intercepted there.
This time they'll go I formation from their own 25, going right to left across your radio dial. And it's going to be a play-action pass, and down goes a seal. Defense read it perfectly. 2nd sack of the game for Chicago, Paul Spears came through and hit the quarterback on that one.
It just seemed as if he was rolling out here, and Spears just bull rushes his man here. He just put himself right in position for Spears to make the sack.
And now St. Louis facing 3rd down and 15, 3 wide plus a tight end, a seal. Back to pass. He's looking for a long time. He's going to take off and run, and he's hit from behind right after he crosses the line of scrimmage. It's Paul Spears again, gets a second straight hit on the quarterback, and a 3rd straight 3-and-out for St. Louis to start the ball game.
I don't understand what it was that he stopped for. All he had to do is just keep going and get some yardage. I'm sure that you probably would not have gotten the first down, sure, but there's no point in stopping, especially once you're past the line of scrimmage. Once you get past the line of scrimmage, you can't even throw the ball anymore.
It almost looked like a seal hesitated after his mind had been made up, and this one is taken by Jesse Vick up near the 46-yard line. That's where Chicago will start, already up 10-0 against the St. Louis defense that has yet to prove that they can stop the Wildcat offense.
And at this juncture, they're going to have to get a stop here and get the ball back before it gets absurd for them.
King under center, heavy backfield. Maybe looking for a good dose of Jared Willis. And Jared Willis sprung a block and breaks free for 15 yards. Across midfield to the St. Louis 40. He's already up to 57 yards on the day with a touchdown.
Once again, it's just Jared Willis showing him why he's the main E-back for them. Coming in and just pushing through once again.
Freeman Peltier made the tackle. In comparison, Jared Willis had only 96 yards and no touchdowns all game last week. So he's already almost had a better game in the first quarter, which has 3 seconds left to go in it, and Willis will be stopped behind the line of scrimmage. That's a 2-yard loss. Tackle made by Scott LaRue on the edge rush, and that'll bring us to the end of the first quarter. Chicago has got 10. St. Louis yet to move the football in any meaningful way. This is the SFL, presented by APM Music on YouTube. Stay with us. The SFL on YouTube is sponsored by MediaTek Institute. Do what you love. Love what you do, and we do love MediaTek Institute for sponsoring the SFL. E.T. King on 2nd and 12. From the 43 of St. Louis, he'll go down the seam, wide open, and he's going to break a tackle and go into the end zone. Corey Carter put it on the board. Chicago extends the lead with the first play of the second.
Here we just have Corey Carter showing why he was a former member of the Alaska Storm here. Once again, he's just out here, just outspeeding the entire defense. Didn't even give Anderson any time to tackle him. He was just too fast for him. That's why Chicago picked him up.
And he's looked to be a good pickup so far. That's his 4th touchdown of the season, as he scores just under a 50-yarder touchdown. Make it. And now Garcia is on point for the extra. And it's Chicago 17, St. Louis nothing. This is the SFL presented by APM Music on YouTube. Stay with us. And Levant, same old tune for St. Louis. 3-and-out. And then a good drive by Chicago to put points on the board. How does the narrative change here if you're, Colin Northrup or Dwayne Schindler on the St. Louis sideline?
Well, this is going to sound strange, but they're going to have to incorporate Denzel Diaz in some form or shape to start giving the defense different looks. Once they start, converging on the box, give it the ball back to the seal to try to pass on them after getting a running game back settled.
And that's why I thought it was odd that they attempted the play-action pass on their last drive, having only run the ball 2 times before the game up to that point. We'll see what St. Louis can do in their Gateway City tribute uniforms, gold, red, and blue. Going left to right from their own 27-yard line, and a flare-out pass to Finch. and he'll get 8 yards, and that's the kind of play they're going to need to start doing with more regularity.
Well, another thing that they could do is just start putting Finch in different spots of the field. You know, shift them out left, shift them out right. Stack them up with trips on either side of the ball. You know, figure out a way to get them open.
And on 2nd and 2 from the 34, they're going to go I formation as center. And here is Denzel Diaz running left. He's got a broken tackle and a first down. He ran right through Clint Hendershot, who had come on the linebacker blitz, and pushed him out of the way and moves the chains for the first time in the ball game for the Gladiators.
That doesn't often happen to someone like Hendershot, mind you. He's one of the more solid linebackers in this league, and Denzel Diaz just put a lot of work into taking him out.
A Seal's going to take off. He's got speed, and he almost gets a first down. He got 9 yards. Chain. Wow, that looked like a running back out of there.
Seemed like a designed RPO specifically made just for a Seal there. He couldn't find the pass, so he decided to run with it. Good job.
And now I'm wondering, if he's got that kind of speed, why didn't he continue running on the previous drive? We may never know. 2nd down and inches. Expect to see a heavy dose of Denzel Diaz here, and we will. And he's going to push right on past Dylan Rowland and get a first down up to the 49-yard line. And look out, the St. Louis train might be leaving the station here.
This is the sort of momentum that they need to start, gaining throughout the rest of this quarter. They just need to get a methodical drive going and score here.
9:08 to play in the first half. A Seal steps up, throws deep, looking, tipped again, and it hits the turf. Juan Moore actually had a chance to play on the ball, as did Blake Hamrick. And this is a risky throw by a Seal.
He just underthrew it a bit there, and Hamrick and Barnes here just kind of had enough of an angle on it. He had support underneath and just didn't have enough loft on the ball to get it to his receiver.
And really, Blake Hamrick looked like he knocked the ball away from Moore, as Moore looked to almost have control of it as it was going around. That might have been the catch of the season if he was able to pull that in. But anyways, it's 2nd down and 10, just shy of midfield. A Seal looks to Diaz in the backfield, and oh man, he's losing 3 yards as Jeremy Lane comes up with a huge TFL on that play.
And it just seems like Boucher Jr. just came up through the middle untouched, and a Seal was just under so much pressure. He understood that Diaz was out in the flat already covered, but he had to get the ball out.
3rd down and 13, and Chicago looking to stall this drive. They only send 3, but he's still under pressure. A Seal's going to have to run, and he's not going to get there. He's going to get back to the original line of scrimmage. And it all fell apart for St. Louis around the 50, but some promising signs from the Gladiators on that drive.
Well, from what we've seen on that drive, they might actually want to incorporate not necessarily an option offense, but, incorporate some rollouts and get some way to get a Seal moving away from the pressure he's receiving.
Oh, that punt was almost blocked as Graham Northrup got it away. And it looks like Chicago will start from deep inside their own end at the 13-yard line as Vic couldn't escape the clutches of the defense. 7:54 to go in the second quarter. Wildcats back on offense with a 17-point lead over the visiting St. Louis Gladiators. Glad you have joined us on this Sunday evening in Chicago. Michael Truilo, Levant Mercer with me in the booth. Shan Varner is on stats tonight. Thank him so much as a handoff goes to Willis up the middle, breaking tackles, and he's got track speed, and he's away! Oh, he could go all the way! Nobody's gonna touch him, and he's got an 80-yard touchdown! Jared Willis! Put it on the board, my friend!
Well, here's Jared Willis doing his best AJ Francis impression, also running wild all over the Gladiators here. Let's look at it again. Once again, this power O was done to perfection, and there's absolutely no one in this league right now that could probably catch him. Look at this man run. probably the fastest running back in this league.
And look how many tackles he breaks here, too. He must have broken at least 3 on his way to the outside in clean air.
Just absolutely just turned on the Jets and left them in the back burner there.
And Jesus Garcia, probably loving life right now. All he's had to do is kick 2 extra points at a chip shot field goal. Or 3 extra points, rather, than a chip shot field goal. Official length of that last touchdown was 87 yards, not 80. Just makes it a little bit more impressive what Willis just did. As Willis is now up to 142 yards and 2 touchdowns. His best individual performance of the season, and we're not even out of the first half yet. As Juan Moore actually has a great return this time, up to the 33-yard line, and it is now 24-0, and getting a little ugly, but to the delight of the fans here in Chicago.
So far, Jared Willis has rushed 9 times for 144 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, St. Louis last week had issues with a different running back, A.J. Francis, who ran for 347 on 27 carries.
1st and 10, Diaz gets the carry. He'll break through the first level easily. Good blocking up front. He'll pick up 5 yards, eventually tackled by a Chicago player there in the middle.
In comparison so far, Denzel Diaz has only rushed 5 times for 15 yards.
They're going to show more I formation here. Only a single receiver split to the top side. That's Finch. And another run for Diaz. He's got breakaway speed as well. He's got a first down. It only took a last-second tackle from Dylan Rowland to maybe prevent the little man from speeding away from the Chicago defense there.
Well, the Chicago defense almost had this run breakaway, except for right there. Wonderful pursuit angle there by the linebacker, Dylan Rowland.
Rowland's 2nd tackle of the game. And it's a huge one, possibly point-saving, as this time it's a flare out to Diaz. The pass was behind him, but he takes a monumental amount to get 2 yards on the play. Big stiff arm behind the line, then fighting through contact and falling forward. Denzel Diaz, it's been all him this round.
They're going to need to start going to him more and start trusting him more off, even if it's just in the receiving game, because right now, Aseel's looking a little loopy.
We've got Aseel in the gun, 2 receivers alongside him, and 3 wideouts on 2nd and 8. And Aseel looking near side. That pass is incomplete. It was in and out of the hands of the intended receiver, Moss.
Now, in our first game this season, Tito Moss had a wonderful reception against London for a touchdown there, and I don't know what happened on that play. He just dropped it.
Misread the over-the-shoulder catch, and now 3rd and 8. They've gone 4 wide in an empty backfield. Only a 3-man rush for Chicago. Plenty of time, but he undersold his receiver. It was intended for Tito Moss again, and he way underthrew him as Boucher got in there and broke the pass up, and it's another stalled drive for the Gladiators.
I'm not so sure you could run shorter routes than that. I don't understand how you can even underthrow those. I think he's just feeling the strange pressure coming off to his outside from that left outside shift.
Graham Northrop on to punt again. He will definitely be not liking the amount of times he's been in the game today, as Jesse Vick picks it up from just inside his 10-yard line and returns it up to the 23. And here we go again. The St. Louis Gladiators defense has been incapable of stopping this Wildcats offense so far. And E.T. King, he's been great. 8 of 12, 75 yards, a touchdown, and 1 interception. And he is under center. Here's the give to Willis right up the middle, and he'll get 4 yards. Freeman Peltier, actually, that's not Peltier. That's Ethan Kai, the other safety up from that slot, came to make the tackle.
Well, let's not forget that 2 weeks ago, Chicago did actually upset Carolina and gave them their first loss of the season. And St. Louis just lost to Carolina last week.
This is a dangerous Wildcats team, and they've only gotten better as the season has gone on after a bit of a slow start. And Jared Willis is a big reason why he's pounding through 8 more yards and a first down up to the 36.
Well, they finally decided to attempt to go outside here, but now with just a short run here with Willis and Freeney there with a great block that's being magnified here. But really, it was just Willis going up the middle there. You alright?
First down again for Chicago from their old 36 in the all-orange and silver helmets, and going for it all. What a catch in double coverage across midfield to the 43. Buchanan Simons, he's been quiet for most of the second quarter, but he makes a loud impact there.
And once again, you just see E.T. King understanding that there's just a little bit too much coverage over the top there, but if he just gets to his outside shoulder like he did there, it will be a reception, and he did, trusted his receiver, who hasn't caught in the previous game, has now had his 3rd reception today.
Simons on the sideline after that catch. Taking a little bit of a breather as the Wildcats will go in a more run-heavy set here as they'll give it. Oh, and Willis got nothing as the play was blown up in the backfield. That's 77 Shane Masters making his first impact in the game today and getting a tackle for loss back at the 44.
Let's not undersell the real power here on this St. Louis defense. Comes from their front 7. Primarily the 3 down defensive linemen that they have. We just have here a little technical difficulty with someone, but right here we just have some wonderful pass to number 16 here. Just great awareness to find the open man by E.T. King here. Back looks for Willis. Here we just have Willis again going up middle and just absolutely just continuing to pound the rock up across here, and St. Louis just absolutely has no answers for him so far. Having a little bit of a difficulty from the play-by-play man here. So 1st and 10, 16. Here is Willis again, out to the outside, goes up to the 5, and that's a first down. Jared Willis just continuing to pile on the pressure here. Just look at it again. There's absolutely nothing that they could do with these outside runs. So it's 1st and goal for the Wildcats. Went into full house form. Oh, go ahead.
1st and goal at the 5. Sorry about that. My mic cut out for a minute there as Levant had to take over. Thank you so much as Jared Willis went nowhere on 1st down. It'll be 2nd goal right from the 5. Apologies for cutting out there for a minute. I'm sure everybody did fine. Just over 2 minutes to go, second quarter, and Chicago looking to put more of a hurt down on to St. Louis through Jared Willis, right side running, and he can't find a way past the defender, Bo Knowles, from the outside linebacker's block. And that'll take us to the 2-minute warning. It's all Chicago right now, and it looks like they could be more Chicago points coming up here shortly. This is the SFL presented by APM Music on YouTube. Stay with us. And look, it's the power formation here. 3 backs in the backfield behind King, and Willis gets the ball, and Bo Knowles says no this time again. And they're going to stop him in the red zone and force a 3-point try from Garcia, and I'm sure that's a little bit of a win there if you're the Gladiator defense.
Yeah, that's something that they haven't been able to do all game, honestly. It's just stop this offense from pushing forth with the run game, so having a stop there is critical for them to have this not blow open, even wider than it has been.
And Willis is going to wait all the way to the play clock. Hits 2 to snap the ball, and from 21 yards, he puts it right down Main Street. And it's now Chicago 27, St. Louis nothing. 1:16 to go in the second quarter.
Well, I almost thought Chicago was trying to play chicken with the ball there, like we've seen some teams in the league do, but I understand why they would be milking the clock there. They don't want to give St. Louis any more momentum and have them score before the half.
More momentum? Did St. Louis have any momentum to begin with?
Well, you gain some momentum when you have finally get a stop at the red zone and leave them with just 3 points.
Fair enough.
It's some, and right now for them, in a game like this, some momentum is better than the none that they've been having so far.
Let's see if any of that momentum translates over to Dylan Asil and the offense. They're going to start at their own 29-yard line. With 1:12 to go, second quarter, they've still got all 3 of their timeouts. Asil looking, pumps, now throws deep over the middle. What a catch in tight coverage! And there's the first St. Louis timeout. Nick Finch finally bursts onto the scene here in Chicago.
Well, that's what they finally needed to get him doing, and right there, just splitting the zone wide open. There was no safety over the top, and that, once again, Asil sometimes shows moments of magic like that one, and he finally got a ball into Finch right in time in this half.
A beautifully placed ball right in between Maurice Spurgeon and Jesse Vick. And now, empty backfield for Asil. First down and 10. A penalty flag comes in the area where it would probably be holding. A sack comes through onto Asil from Paul Spears. That's his 3rd sack of the game, and it's going to be a face mask on St. Louis. And that's going to push the Gladiators back towards midfield. It's actually over midfield to their own 47-yard line.
Well, that takes a sack off the board, but it does make it 1st and 20, so that result ended up much, much worse for St. Louis.
1:02 to go. St. Louis with 2 timeouts at their own 47-yard line. First down and a mile to go. Trips left, single right. And Diaz in the backfield behind Dylan Asil, who'll drop back to throw. Pumps, steps up in the pocket, throws long. Jump ball, catch is made by Cody Scott. And down inside the red zone, big tight end going and making a big catch.
Well, he's been a little incognito in the game so far, but you can't just leave this big, hefty behemoth alone like that, and Spurgeon had no chance there. Look at the size difference on that right there. You see a tight end like that on a safety like him, you more often than not will risk the pass there.
How often do you see a tight end in this league just go straight out on a go route and find himself matched up on a safety? A kind of ridiculous series of events, and St. Louis now finds themselves going to the end zone, and it's incomplete. A pass intended for Nick Finch in the corner of the end zone. He overthrew him a little bit as St. Louis is in the SFL, presented by APM Music Red Zone for the first time today.
Well, here they just don't get too wild with it, Asil, honestly, because in this sort of situation, if he gets picked off here in the red zone trying to force the ball in, it resets the momentum.
Asil looking, throwing short to the far side, and it's incomplete. It was intended for Nick Finch. And now 3rd and 10 from the 14. They can get a first down inside the 5, but I don't think that's what Asil and company will be looking for on this next play.
That might not be the goal, but it's certainly a consideration. They might want some more plays to run on this defense.
3 wide, 2 left, single right to the top side. That's Nick Finch. Asil, low snap. He'll throw to the corner of the end zone, and it's picked off in the end zone. And the momentum swings back the other way. A.J. Barnes has an interception, and he says, no points for you.
And that just sounds like exactly what it was I was talking about. He had a route underneath he could throw to. Instead, tried to go for it all, and Barnes just was able to just read that pass well, swooped in like a hawk, and took it away.
The pass was intended for Juan Moore, as Finch was double covered in the top corner of the end zone. Now with 45 seconds left, Jared Willis is just going to run out the first half clock here. And I don't think St. Louis is going to burn their last time out to stop it.
And honestly, if I'm Chicago here, considering that St. Louis is now finally getting back into the game bits and pieces, there's still a big donut hole on the scoreboard, but they probably just want to go out of the half safely.
And I think it means a lot to this Chicago defense to pitch a shutout after only giving up 3 points last week. I mean, that's got to feel good if you're a defensive coordinator.
Definitely does. I mean, especially on the defensive end, you always want to be the ones that keep the other team locked down, unable to do anything. It's always a great feeling.
We have reached the half here from the Thunderdome in Chicago. Wildcats 27-0 all over the Gladiators. We'll be back after the break. This is the SFL presented by APM Music on YouTube. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Thunderdome in Chicago, Illinois. We're back for the second half on Sunday afternoon SFL action here on YouTube, presented by APM Music. I'm your play-by-play commentator, Michael Truilo, back in the booth With me is Levant Mercer. We've got Shan Varner on stats. And Levant, sum up the first half for me in a couple of words.
Jared Willis, touchdown.
That's a pretty good couple of words. Willis in the first half was 18 for 184 and 2 touchdowns. That's pretty good. As the Gladiators will get the ball to start the second half, and they were cruelly denied points right at the end of the first due to an interception by A.J. Barnes right on the goal line, and that's the reason they still have a giant goose egg under their name on the big scoreboard here in Chicago. They'll start in the I formation, going right to left at the 20-yard line, at the 30-yard line. In their St. Louis tribute uniforms, gold helmets, red jerseys, white and blue pants, a tribute to both the Cardinals and Rams, who both have played in St. Louis in the past, and now the Gladiators are the only football team left in the great Gateway City.
So they're still going to show out in big numbers, even with situations like this occurring to them.
Offset I, second down and 9. A seal short drop pressure in his face. He's going to sidearm, sling it right into the teeth of the defense, and it's going to be picked off again. This time it is Jesse Vick who makes the interception, and I don't know where a seal was throwing that ball.
Well, I think part of it had to do with exactly what you described there. Here's the sidearm release, and that right there is just not the way you're supposed to throw the football. He threw it just the skew of his receiver, and there you go. Easy interception for Jesse Vick.
I mean, I might say that was intended for Cody Scott coming across the middle, but it was so far in front of him, I couldn't tell. And now, the Chicago Wildcats are set up inside the Gladiator 40. And here is E.T. King going to throw to the near side on first down. He's got 7 yards to his tight end, Shan Varner. He'll make his second catch of the day for 7 yards.
They're going to have to... Well, they've been doing well without incorporating the rest of their offense so far, honestly. I mean, you have 27 points on the board, so I can't say what I normally want to say, but, you know, in the second half, teams make adjustments, so trying to incorporate more players into their game plan coming out is always a good idea.
Here is Willis back to the ground game and back to another first down for Chicago. He'll pick up 6 yards there and get down to the St. Louis 25-yard line.
Well, when you stack 8 or more in the box like that, you have to make sure that you contain the runner. And this time they just went straight ahead on the blitz and was unable to bring down the running back in time.
King will throw it in the flat to Willis this time. He got a block and tiptoed down the sideline for 8 yards. It looked like Bo Knowles had Willis dead to rights in the backfield, but a good block sprung him.
That's on not only the block there, but you have to give it up to most players in this league tend to just find their way out of bounds, but this time he's kept himself inside the hash marks and got more yards on the play than he was expected to.
And this might set up an easy second down and 2, but this time Bo Knowles gets his revenge, and he plugs up the gap. And there's no yards gained on that play. But it doesn't matter that Willis is still averaging 9 yards a carry.
Yeah, so that's just something St. Louis has to just find some way to stop.
Offset I, 3 receivers this time, 3rd and 2. They're going to hand it off to Willis, weak side, and he's got a first down and more. Finally brought down by a couple of red jerseys inside the 12. Into the SFL presented by APM Music Red Zone. And Chicago, it's just looked easy for the all-orange and silver-clad Wildcats so far today. E.T. King under center, trips left side. No receivers right, but a tight end is there. And they're going to run it up the middle with Willis, and Willis will get a yard before he is run to the ground by Tony Anderson.
Well, even here on plays that should go backwards, still find their way for 1 or 2 yards, and that just goes and highlights the difficulties St. Louis has had against the run in the past 2 weeks.
They're going to go back to the power formation, looking for another Willis run here at the 11-yard line. Give it to him, going right side. He's got a block, and he's got 7 yards. Down to the 6. Now, inside the 5, we've actually seen St. Louis's defense have some good pressure and hold the Chicago offense to just 6 points when they get inside the 10-yard line. All their touchdowns have come from outside the 10. Handoff, Willis. Will he buck the trend this time? Yes, he will. Put it on the board. Jared Willis fights his way. Oh, no, sorry. That is Bovino, the fullback.
And this time they had a little trickery, bringing Enrico Bobino into the game. And like right here, just absolutely muscles through and gets in for the score.
So Enrico Bovino has himself a touchdown. And Chicago is so far ahead that Shan Varner on the sideline is going, hey, I'm going to throw everybody else in there and give some of the lesser-known guys on the team some time in the sun. It is 7 more points after Garcia puts the extra point up and through.
And honestly, I think that was a very intelligent play called there by Shan, because honestly, this season has seen the injury bug go around like a contagion. So honestly, I mean, you don't want to, in a situation where you're up by this much, you don't want anything to happen to your star players.
Just, you 7 minutes left in the third, so there's still a decently long time to go in this football game, but I don't think anybody really expects a comeback from St. Louis as Moore makes a spin move and gets up to the 31. So I think it's smart. Just put your backups in, give your home crowd here at the Thunderdome a chance to see some guys they don't usually get to.
And try to see who you have on your roster, trying to see just pretty much what they have, and see if you like any of them to bring back next season.
And on first down and 10, Seal's going to throw into the flat. And it was a bit behind Diaz, but he got on his horse and got 4 yards.
That right there is just pretty much the only success that St. Louis has found has been on short and medium routes, but they're going to need a Seal to get his accuracy back together, because the past couple throws, even that one seemed to be a little ahead of Diaz, have been errant.
A Seal short pass, it's in the air, bobbled around, and it hits the turf. He was looking for Diaz out of the backfield, and Clint Hendershot was there to help the ball on its way to the ground.
And that run, once again, just goes back to what I've been mentioning about his Seal. That time, he should have just thrown it ahead of Diaz, and instead throws it on his inside shoulder for some reason, and it just ended up in the turf.
A Seal takes the snap. Good pocket. Oh, it's off the back of Nick Finch. Finch did not turn around in time to see the pass was coming to him. And out comes Graham Northrup again to do the punting duties after another 3 and out.
I normally don't like doing this, but honestly, I just feel like the reason this drive failed this time was just the Seal is probably just absolutely rattled out of this game. I mean, 3 consecutive errant throws, and now he's lost the timing with the receiver that's been doing the most for him this game.
Northrup gets the punt away from just outside his own 20. And Vic returns up to the 29-yard line, and E.T. King will take over again. At this point, if you're Chicago, you're just padding the stats right now.
I mean, that's one way to deal with it. Just keep piling it on, or just start trying to find a way to shut the game down by killing the clock. Right now, the biggest problem for them is that there's still time on the clock.
I'm sure they all just want to get back in the locker room. And we're talking about all this as King throws to the far side. That'll be 8 yards on an out route to J.C. Torres. That's a name we haven't really mentioned today. He's made a couple of catches.
I mean, but
There's still 6:30 to go in the third quarter.
That is entirely true, and now the big battle is with this clock and trying to close out this game. So all they have to do is just don't turn the ball over.
I formation. Hand off up the middle. And Jared Willis, he's breaking away again. And only a tackle from Freeman Peltier prevented Willis from using his speed to get even more yards. He's up past the 50 to the 46 again as we go down under 6 minutes to play for the ball game.
One of the keys in clock management here is just running the ball effectively. And when you have a running back that's well over the 200 mark, it's about 220 yards so far today, it's just absolutely easy to control the clock when you have a running back like that.
Hand off up the middle, 2 yards. Let's do a quick chat shout out. Clint Hendershot, Shane Malone, Maurice Spurgeon. I'm an effing problem. Andrew Hamilton, Darian Bowles, and everybody else watching us on the SFL Network on YouTube. We thank you for spending your Sunday evening with us. And we hope you're enjoying the football game and every other game going on around the league this weekend. It's been a great weekend of football action here. As another run for Willis up the middle. He's got yards, and he's almost got a first down. He missed it by inches, and maybe the spot of the ball was a little unfortunate.
Well, before I get into that, I think that was the first tackle, or one of the few tackles that John Afolabi's had in this game. Former Wildcat, wanted to get that out there. Have my predilections with the chain gang myself, but I'll get into that after this play.
And a short pass in the backfield, and Willis is wrapped up before he can get the first down. Bo Knowles was there to make the tackle, and we're going to see the punter Malcolm Perrin, and I'm going to believe that this is the first punt of the game for Chicago with over halfway gone in the third.
That is correct. Surprisingly enough, I feel like every week we have somebody just about to break the record for the latest that they've had to punt in a game.
And that's a good punt out of bounds at the 7-yard line, putting St. Louis in the shadow of their own end zone to start their next drive. And while we are in between drives, let's take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard presented by ScoreStream, the official live scoring app of the Simulation Football League. In a battle for the top of the Western Conference, Alaska leads Sioux Falls 20-14 as, there goes Diaz, and Diaz is going to get 8 yards off the left side after breaking a tackle. Good run there. But Alaska leads Sioux Falls 20-14 with just over 10 minutes to go in that ball game. So a close one out west. And that's your out-of-town scoreboard presented by ScoreStream. If you want to stay up to date with all the latest scores from around the league, download the ScoreStream app onto iPhone or Android devices as Denzel Diaz will pick up a first down out to the 22.
Well, they should have been doing this a lot earlier, but here we have Denzel Diaz doing what he does best, in late game situations, able to just push the pile and get yardage.
And the starters for Chicago are still in on defense, as Diaz is going to get the ball again, run right side, break through the front line and get 5 yards. It was eventually Blake Hamrick that had to bring him down.
I guess part of why the defense is probably still out there for them is you want to keep that zero intact. You want to show the league at this point that you're one of the top defenses out there.
A Seal in the shotgun on 2nd and 5. He'll rifle it downfield, and it's in and out of the hands of Juan Moore, who has not had a great day from the receiver position by any stretch of the imagination. It's 3rd down and 5 coming up.
It's a bit of a reputation thing. You got to think about it. In the past 7 quarters, they've only allowed 3 points. 3!
And it's going to be put on... This defense is going to be really put to the test next week as they go to Carolina, as that pass over the middle in traffic, and it's caught. Tito Moss, who missed a couple of catches earlier, his hands ring true on that one. And that might have been the toughest catch of the game for either team.
It was about, 5 or 6 defenders in the vicinity, and Seal shows that he's probably starting to rectify some of his accuracy issues late in the game.
Handoff, Asadu Diaz, and Diaz gets 7 yards, and Diaz, it looks like he's always 1 tackle away from breaking a big run, and that time he was downed by Clint Hendershot.
Well, that just seems to be the breaks for some teams. Some teams just can't catch a break either with the spot of the ball, being inbounds, or just being 1 tackle shy of 6.
Handoff, Diaz up the middle, weaving his way through for another 1st down across midfield. This is the best drive of the game for St. Louis on offense. They started at their own 7-yard line, rather. And they're already up to the Chicago 45.
Well, here's just some wonderful vision here by Diaz to find the open hole, cut back outside just to get himself a couple more yards there before being brought down by Hammer. But to get to your point, that might be all fine and dandy and all, that they're finally getting a drive together, but the biggest enemy for them is time, and we're already at 1:19 left in the 3rd.
Clock slipping away here from the Thunderdome in Chicago, and Diaz got hit in the backfield as the offensive line went out to lunch, and a big tackle for loss by Kevin Owens.
You know, they don't necessarily have, actual star defensive linemen. I'm going to go and confirm this, but they've been doing very well so far today.
3-man rush. A Seal checks it down to Diaz, and Diaz will get a couple of those yards back, but it'll be 3rd and 11. And it looks like a potential drive stalling play coming up here. A Seal's going to have to use the arm like he did earlier in this drive and pick up the 1st down.
Well, it might be true that these defensive linemen are not on, the largest contracts, but they've been extremely effective so far in containing the St. Louis offense.
It's all going to be on the arm of a Seal here. 3rd down and 11 from the Chicago 46-yard line. Looking, spinning, and he's going to be sacked. They brought the blitz, and it worked out for him. Dylan Rowland with the sack this time. And that'll end the promising drive for St. Louis back on their own half of the 50.
Well, we give the sack here to Rowland, but we got to give more props here to that defensive line forcing a Seal into the only lane that Rowland was coming in on. Wonderful play all around by that front 7.
And will this punt get away before the 3rd quarter comes to an end? Yes, it will. Northrop punting from just shy of his own 40-yard line. Received and downed right there inside the 15. And that is where Chicago will take over. We have reached the end of the 3rd quarter. It's all Chicago here. 34-0 over St. Louis. This is the SFL presented by APM Music on YouTube. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Thunderdome. Michael Truilo, Levant, Mercer in the booth with you for this game. Shan Varner on stats. As we start the final 11 minutes of SFL action, and this one is all over but the signing and sealing, as a 6-yard gain on 1st down for Willis out of the flat. And I want to take a moment now, Levant, to talk about some playoff scenarios because this game is extremely impactful in the wild card race. Coming into this game, Chicago 4-4, Las Vegas 4-4, Atlanta 4-5. Those are the first three teams out of the wild card. As E.T. King will throw in the flat to Willis again. He's got green grass in front of him on a first down as he's tiptoeing down the sideline all the way up to the 39-yard line. All of those three teams, considering Chicago doesn't miraculously collapse in the next 10 minutes, won today.
Yes, and I guess one for the key here for Chicago, especially since they're way ahead in the lead, is the Carolina game. That is the game that will probably propel them ahead very definitely of the other teams there, Las Vegas, one of them, because of strength of opponent.
Carolina 7-1 coming into the week. They play Tallahassee coming up tonight. A big game on Twitch. You don't want to miss it. Willis goes up the middle for 2 yards. And they are 7-1. Queen City owns the number 2 seed out of the East at 7-2. Chicago, with 3 games left after this, could potentially catch them and get one of the automatic qualifying bids if they win out.
It'd be a very tough ask for them, but if they play how they
are eliminated from into the playoffs.
And honestly, at the beginning of the season, they looked like they were going to finally break out of that funk, and I'm not so entirely sure what occurred, but they just seemed to lose the plot down the stretch and just couldn't get their offense going anymore.
Yeah, two wins in the first 4 games for St. Louis, and then dropping 6 straight, and now 7 straight as we come up on week 11 next week. Let's take a look. Sorry, go ahead.
It's just absolutely surprising that this is only the second punt of the game for Chicago.
And Chicago has definitely taken their foot off the gas here in the fourth quarter as Malcolm Perrin boots it away and Juan Moore returns to the 20-yard line. Oklahoma City, I did not get to watch that game. Did they win today? We'll come back to that after the first play from scrimmage of the St. Louis 20-yard line. A seal alone in the backfield, 4 wide. On first down and 10, 8:54 to go in the ballgame. A seal looking, throws short and throws in between everybody, and it'll be incomplete. And the other thing, I'm going to say one more thing about the wild card race. We were talking with Andy Hamilton before the game started, Levant, and he really wanted Chicago to fall today because with their win over Mexico City, Diaz is going to get a first down up the far side after a pass in the flat. He'll gain 11 yards on the play.
New Orleans won that game.
So New Orleans did beat Oklahoma City. They are quickly falling out of contention.
It was a 34-24 game for New Orleans.
And New Orleans moves to 5-4. And they cement their place even further as a wild card team out of the Southern Conference.
So it's very important for Chicago to win out. Because especially if they do so, not only are they pretty much safe, but when it comes to strength of opponent, they will very definitely win that charge there if they're able to win out against Queen City and Carolina.
All to be told next week, and I think the Chicago and Carolina game is going to have my pick for game of the week next week. It's such an enticing matchup. Handoff, Diaz blown up in the backfield, and he's dropped for a loss. Back to the original line of scrimmage at the 31. Brandon Veazey was there to make the tackle along with A.J. Barnes. Sioux Falls and Alaska are the top 2 seeds, not in that order, from the West, and with Alaska looking to close out Sioux Falls and move to 9-0. looking like nobody can catch them out west. As a seal goes short to Diaz. Diaz slips one tackle but can't get away from the rest of the orange bullets flying at him. And it'll be 4th down.
I think, honestly, I don't think anyone could actually catch Alaska. They had some scares earlier this season, so anything can happen at the very end. Speaking of teams that have great records, Tallahassee has to be very careful of Carolina and vice versa, because it is very possible that we're down to just one undefeated team after tonight.
That's again coming up tonight, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern. Tallahassee at Carolina. That is 8-0 against 7-1. A big matchup tonight on Twitch. Be sure you join us there. Help the league out. Get those viewer numbers up. And we'll get one more out-of-town scoreboard presented by ScoreStream. Going down to just under 5 minutes to go in the Alaska and Sioux Falls game. Alaska 34, Sioux Falls 21. So it looks like Alaska is pretty much wrapped this up and going deep, and it's incomplete. As E.T. King was going for it all there, looking for Buchanan Simons. And Ethan Kai knocked it away.
Once again, that's probably been the brightest spot on their defense so far today, has been where Ethan Kai has been able to be, both in the running game, able to stop or at least get to and pursue Willis properly, and able to be there on the pass play there. Has been effective for them so far today.
2nd and 10 from the 43. Hand off. Willis going nowhere. Tackle behind the line of scrimmage that time. Scott LaRue was there. First penetration to make the tackle. And on a rough day for the St. Louis defense, there have been a couple of bright spots. You mentioned Ethan Kai. I'm going to mention Scott LaRue. When he's been able to break in the backfield, he's been a great disruptor. 3rd down at 11, and King is not taking his foot off the gas. 5 wide. He's going to bomb down the sideline into one-on-one coverage, and it's knocked away by Colin Douglas. It was intended for J.C. Torres, and Colin Douglas made an interception on the second play from scrimmage at the start of the game, and he only has 2 other passes defended since then, that being one of them.
It's very interesting now to see that the defense has come alive only now. It might be that Chicago's testing some things for next week that are experimental.
It's blocked. And it only looked like it got partially blocked because it went all the way to the 38-yard line. Still going to be decent field position for St. Louis in their own 38 with 5:58 to go in the ball game.
Well, that just seems like that has been the case for St. Louis, honestly. I mean, just even if they get something, they still come up with nothing.
They did have a potential touchdown pass intercepted on the goal line right at the end of the first half. It would have broken the goose egg, but still nothing is going nowhere as Dylan Asil, and Denzel Diaz on the out route, and he's taking a while to get up. You got to think that the St. Louis players there, it's a lot more than just their physical bruises that are going to hurt tonight. As Denzel Diaz goes up the middle, and he'll give him 5 yards in the face of Dylan Rowland.
You know, at this point, they probably should try to think about bringing the second team in to just see what they have on offense coming for the next season, because this is looking rough for them.
Next week is probably the best opportunity, as Diaz gets a loss of 2, and it's going to be another 4th down and another 3 and out. Next week is probably going to be the best opportunity for St. Louis to get another win on the board. They play an Indianapolis team that is 1-7. and the other struggling team in the Eastern Conference this year.
If they're going to honestly get anything out of that game, they have to contain Swearingen, because if they are unable to do so, then I'm not sure what they can possibly do.
The Gladiators just went for it on 4th down. The pass was complete out to Benny Brazil, the tight end. But Maurice Spurgeon made sure he didn't get anywhere near the line to gain. The Wildcats will take over. Just under 5 minutes to go, 4:29 to go in the ball game, and it looks like the Wildcats have called off the Dogs. They're just going to run it for the rest of the night. Or no, they're going to throw it. King hit as he throws, and the pass is complete for a loss of 1 to Willis. I don't understand that call at all.
Well, like I was trying to mention earlier, there might be testing out some things now on St. Louis just to see what they can do for next week. It's not the brightest thing to do, but it is something they could possibly be doing.
Tonight, another incentive to tune in to the massive Eastern Conference clash between Tallahassee and Carolina, as Jared Willis takes a handoff and goes for 2 yards. The updated playoff picture will be released tonight during the game, so hop on over to Twitch after this game is over. Tell your friends, tell your SFL comrades, get them in there. It's going to be a fantastic matchup tonight.
There's definitely one of the more interesting ones tonight between those teams, for sure.
Do you have a prediction for me?
I'm actually going to predict the upset for once. I'm going to predict that Carolina is probably going to win 30-28. I'm even going to give you the score.
Carolina at home. The upset is a diving catch across the middle for a first down. E.T. King, not his best pass of the day, but Tyler Baker hauls in the catch. Actually, that is Jamison Holmes. The backups are finally in on offense for Chicago. So the backup quarterback finding the backup wide out across the middle for a first down.
So who do you have in that matchup, Michael?
I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be within a touchdown game. I'm going to have Tallahassee 35-32.
So you're going to be the voice of reason.
I think that they win in a shootout over Carolina. Their offensive weapons are too good, as up the middle goes the second-string runner, Enrico Bovino. He has a touchdown already today in the third quarter. He's getting some more time to run in the fourth.
It's not as if backup running backs have not been, performing this season, as we saw in the previous game that we've done. But Blackman actually put in some work for
see King Jack Washington from a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, that also doesn't mean that St. Louis can sleep on Vovino just because he's not the main guy.
That pass is out there and bobbled around by Jared Willis. I don't know. He's tired. He wants to go home.
That is probably just because he wasn't expecting to come back on the field. Finally got some Gatorade. Finally, cooled down a little bit, and then came back in the game unexpectedly. Probably was the case there.
Holmes under center, 3rd down and 6 from the St. Louis 26-yard line. Handoff goes to Bovino, and Bovino's got a first down running right side. And oh boy, the Gladiators defense, I think they want to get back on the bus, and they want to head back to St. Louis.
Well, just look at it here again. Just absolutely defeated the contain out to the outside, and now it just looks like it doesn't matter who your running back is. If you're St. Louis, you're going to have to just go back to the drawing board.
We have reached the 2-minute warning here on the SFL Network on YouTube, presented by APM Music. Stay with us.
So once again for St. Louis, they're going to have to find a game plan that best suits them against Swearingen and the Red Devils.
And unfortunately, like so many other times this season, as Bavino goes up the middle and gets 4 yards as St. Louis uses their first timeout, it's going to be back to the drawing board for Dwayne Schindler and Colin Northrup.
It was a shame because earlier in the while we were out there in the convention and everything, they seemed to be finally figuring it out when we saw their game against London, and then the next week when they found the win, and now they're just back to their old ways.
Handoff, Bavino up the middle. He'll get 3 yards to the 12. St. Louis burns their second timeout.
I'm sure somebody somewhere is probably looking at their current getup and they're like, well, when the Cardinals dressed like that, they didn't necessarily win, and I'm just thinking that's not necessarily fair.
Paying tribute to the football teams of St. Louis past, the gold and blue helmet for the Rams, the red uniform for the Cardinals, as tried to go left side did Bovino, and he'll force the third burn timeout for St. Louis. They're out of timeouts. That'll expedite the burning of the clock here as Garcia comes on to attempt his third field goal of the day.
And at this point, we might as well just seal it shut. There's absolutely no permutation of events that could probably occur for St. Louis for them to come back to this one, even though you would be thinking, why am I even saying this? It was always possible earlier in the fourth, but not now.
The final nail in the coffin goes right down Main Street from 29 yards. Garcia perfect on the day. 3 for 3 on field goals.
And that that definitely seals it here. Now, let's see how St. Louis wants to come out, if they want to try to save face by trying to go down the field or just call it a day.
1:46 left to go here from the Thunderdome, and this hometown Chicago crowd has really loved it. They've been loud all day, enjoyed every single one of those 37 Wildcat points as Juan Moore brings it up to the 28-yard line.
Now, for St. Louis here, I just think that they should just try to go down the field and try to salvage, some points from this, You never want to be that team that gets shut out.
And as Seal is in the shotgun on 1st and 10, he'll drop back to pass. He'll pass it over the middle, and it is caught. And now into the up-tempo offense they go as Cody Scott hauled that one in for 12 yards up to the 40. And he's going to go down the field again, jump ball, and not caught there by Tito Moss. And we'll go back to the drawing board. There is one game that we have not talked about, and that is the Monday Night Fan Night game of the week between Baltimore and Queen City, another Eastern Conference clash. The primetime games really focusing down east this week.
And honestly, that's going to be a key game for Chicago to really watch and see what happens in that game, because honestly, I mean, that is going to determine their seeding, and that's going to determine a lot of things. If they are able to beat Queen City later in this season, you're going to look back at Queen City hopefully losing against Baltimore to, just propel them up further, up in the standings in that conference.
I mean, I don't know who Chicago would root for, because Baltimore has the wild card spot at 5-3. Chicago, with this win, goes to 5-3. Las Vegas also at 5-3, and they own the common games advantage over Chicago as Seal looks middle, fires a dart, caught first down. They'll continue the up-tempo offense with 40 seconds to go. So if Baltimore loses tonight or tomorrow night to Queen City, Las Vegas takes that wild card spot away from them. There would be a half game up on the Vultures.
Well, just going into the possible permutations, this is presuming, at least on my part, that Chicago goes out and beats Carolina again. And if they're able to do that, they will find themselves ahead of Baltimore. But this is probably why they kind of want Baltimore to beat Queen City to make it easier for them in terms of, you know, gaining seeding on Queen City.
Oh, and a tough catch there for Finch here, roll out of bounds. I did misspeak when talking about Chicago's record. They are 4-4. They would be 5-4. So if Baltimore was to lose tonight, they would tie at 5-4. So nothing would actually change in the standings, making that entire conversation
I wouldn't say necessarily
well,
null and void, but I guess now that we've been, corrected here, it just makes it so that Chicago would prefer a tie, but there's no ties in the SFL.
A seal with 26 seconds to go goes down the field, and it's almost picked off again. Jesse Vick, who already has a pick today, he had the pick in the end zone to deny St. Louis possibly their only point to the ball game in the second quarter. He knocks that one down, and now 4th and 7, 24 seconds left from the Chicago 38. This is the last play of the game, possibly, for the Gladiators offense. A seal stands in, plenty of time. He'll throw to the far side, and it's incomplete. Nick Finch did not get a foot down, and that is the end of the game for Dylan Seal, and a game.
Finch was, and yeah, there's no way
that's not a Cade Stevens.
No, that's definitely far and away out of bounds.
Ball game, and he's just going to kneel it. The best formation in football if you have more points than your opponent, and Chicago certainly has this afternoon.
The demolition show of running here. It's just been all Wildcats, all game, on the ground. And the Gladiators really need to figure out how they want to handle Swearingen and the Red Devils next week, or it may just be all but over for their season.
It is a shutout in the Thunderdome. 37-0. The Chicago Wildcats beat the St. Louis Gladiators. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.